Acknowledge the reason why you have been so afraid or so angry or so reactive or so disconnected is not because you're lazy. It's because you had an inadequacy that's too scary to confront. Allow yourself to sit in that. Allow your inner person to feel safe coming through with the truth. That's already step one to solving the problem. Hey guys. So today I just want to talk about the stories we tell ourselves and possibly throw a spanner in the works. And maybe for some of you, help you interrupt some of the patterns that keep you stuck, right? So I'm turning 40 in 2 days, 2 years. Wow, okay. I'm turning 40 in 2 days. And this week I have been ruminating on my 30s. I've never had a problem with age or aging. In fact, it's not a private question for me. I'm always happy to tell people how old I am, always have been. Maybe it's because I started working at a very early age, and in my mid 20s I was working in a place where I was an executive, and I found like walking into certain spaces, people didn't take me seriously because I was very young. And so I remember at 25, 26, just I kept saying I can't wait to turn 30 because I think as I grow older, then people will give me the respect I think I deserve. And so even just when I was transitioning from my 20s to my 30s, I remember even on my 30th birthday, there was no sadness or grief, or you know how, because 20s is your primary youthfulness. It wasn't that for me. Turning 30 it's about time. Oh, and thank you God for keeping me. But I think it's different this time around. As I'm transitioning from my 30s to my 40s, I'm finding myself surprisingly just sort of, I think I think there are areas I'm grieving about, if I'm to be honest. Maybe this channel is still a little bit too young for me to be super candid. Um, but I think I am, with the last 2 days of my 30s and just waiting to get into my 40s. You know, some people say age is just a number, that's all good. But I do think 40 is a big deal. There is a transition that takes place. Even biblically, um, I do feel that 40 holds a significance. And so I've been trying to introspectively just look at what my 30s were. And I'm just shocked to find how I have grown and evolved as a woman in my 30s. In my 30s, I found my purpose. And anybody who's searching for that meaning that's bigger than them, you know, and a lot of nowadays it's arguable about the purpose. Some people say there's no such thing as a purpose. Other people do believe there's a purpose. I believe that we each have a purpose. I also believe that each season brings a purpose, but there's an overall reason why we are here. That is my school of thought. That is why we are aligned with the skills, the values, the abilities we have. It's not just for ourselves, it's for a certain area we are supposed to impact. The distribution of values and skills isn't just random. I think it's aligned with what we are meant to be. Story for another day. But in my 30s is where I found where, and that was an ache for me, because from my 20s to my early 30s, it was, I prayed and fasted and wept, and I just felt so empty. And I always tell my clients it was blank canvas season. I didn't know who I was, and 20s was toxic and debilitating. It was terrible. And so coming out of that and healing, it was my 30s. I entered my 30s almost like it was a blank slate where, who am I? What am I supposed to be doing? Over and above being a mom, Like, remove the title, even for you, remove your title. My name is this and this. I work, remove that. I have, my husband, Who are you as an individual? Can you answer that question in a sentence form? And so for me, I was hunting for my identity. And in my 30s, I'm not saying I'm fully there, but I can tell you in one sentence who I am. It's pretty cool. Glory to God for that. But I also found that a lot of the things I thought I was going to achieve by my 40s, and me being a planner, strategy, 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 strategy. I'm going to do this. I'm going to achieve that. I'm going to be this. I haven't. And I likely won't achieve them in the next 48 hours. And there's a sadness, if you want me to be honest, there's a sadness for the things I have not yet achieved, acquired, possessed, become. And I've been asking myself why. And the truth is, because of the stories I've told myself. Um, I'm not going to call them excuses. I'm not going to, it's not a victim mentality. It is the reality of what happened. Things happen. And isn't that just the thing for all of us? We don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. We are our reality is formed by the words we use to describe our past, our present, our future. Those words we use to describe are what form the reality we possess, the reality we live in, the reality we inhabit. We are, every day we show up and respond to the reality we have created, our perspective. And think about it this way. Have you ever been in a conversation with somebody, or have you ever listened to people dialoguing, and each of them walk away with, it was one person talking, but each person walked away with a very different story. Yeah, one person had one thing, the other person had another thing. It's because we respond every day based on our perspective, our outlook. And what forms our outlook? What forms our worldview? It's where you were raised, who raised you, what were you told, how did you see people responding to life issues, what happened to you, what happened around you. All those things form your reality. And so, retrospectively, I have been looking back at some of the things I didn't achieve, and I was giving myself stories, and I'm very articulate. Oh, I'll always give you a good answer. Yesterday, I was hanging out with a friend of mine, and she's been talking about wanting to lose weight for quite a while, and she's done it before, gained it back, just like most of us. And I was telling her, so what is it you want right now? What's going on? Because she was saying, she's in a bit of a funk, and I was asking her, what's going on? And she was just like, no, 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 I just watched your YouTube reel. There's a reel I put out 2 days ago on trying versus becoming. Stop trying, start becoming. And the whole idea is, trying is a cop out. The word trying means to make an attempt. And if you tell me subject to trial, you're also telling me subject to failure. And so I was just challenging people and saying, stop using the word trying, because it's a cop out, because it means I'm trying, but there's a chance I might fail. Instead, use the word becoming. Becoming means starting to be, growing into something that sends a signal to your mind that whatever it is you're now pursuing, you're serious about it, and you're ready for the changes, and your mind starts to collaborate with you on that. Does that make sense? So anyway, after that reel, we linked up and we had a chat, and she's like, oh no. And so one of the things we were talking about was, I want to start getting physically fit again. But I don't feel like going to the gym. So I'm asking her, why don't you want to go to the gym? She's like, I keep paying, and then I don't go. That's just a waste of cash. And then My work hours, I just don't know if it'll work. Um, my husband has been telling me to walk, and I like walking, but there's so many stray dogs in my place, and I don't vibe with dogs. I also have weights, but that's just tricky. And then my hair is long. When I sweat, it shrinks. And I have to keep going to the salon. And so I remember I stopped. I told her, okay, babe, those are stories. What is the truth? And and she laughed because innately we all know who we are. When we are willing to stop and be honest with ourselves, we know when we are BSing ourselves. The problem is we just don't know how to call ourselves out. Yeah. And so we started to have an authentic conversation on what the truth is. And so the first thing I asked is, what do you think it is? She said, I think I'm just lazy. I told her, in all these years, I've worked with women. I have never encountered a lazy woman. And I take issue with that word because laziness means unwilling. Well, if you're lazy, my friend has an amazing job. She has a beautiful family. Her kids look good. If she was lazy, she would have lost her job. She would have probably her partner would have left her because who's building a family with a lazy person? Her kids would probably be smelly because she doesn't wash them, right? But she's very put together. This is someone I've known for years. So you're telling me in that one area, you're lazy because laziness is laziness all across. It's a characteristic. And so if you're lazy in one area, chances are it's going to pop up in other areas. And so every time a lady comes to me and tells me she's lazy, I lovingly ask her to take it back because that's an attack on your character that is not fair to you. Oftentimes, if there's a resistance, there's a deeper rooted issue. So the first thing she told me is, I'm lazy. I told her, no, let's try that again. And the second thing that came out of her mouth was, I just don't know if it'll work this time. I've tried. I've tried walking before, I've tried eating properly, I've tried gymming, I've tried everything. And the weight just comes back. And so I told her, okay, now we're going somewhere. And so we kept talking and we kept talking, and a lot of things came up, but at her core, the truths were number one, I've always been a big girl. That's been her identity. And number two, I don't feel like I can do it. Okay, so let's work with those two examples. Story is what? Traffic. I don't feel like going to the gym. There's too much traffic. My hair will get messy when I gym. When I walk, there are dogs. Stories. And they're all true. There are dogs. Her hair will shrink. There is traffic. I'm not saying a story is a lie. I'm just saying a story is a story. Okay? There is factual basis. Her truth is that the reason she's entertaining these stories is because she's always been a big girl and she doesn't think she can do it. So, if you think you've always been a big girl, that's your identity, right? Now, the chances of you changing are what? What is your fear? And is your fear, because it's twofold, is your fear that you're going to try to lose the weight to a healthy state? Are you afraid that you're going to try to lose weight and fail? We're using the word try, right? Try to lose weight and fail. Or are you going to actually do it and succeed? You know, there is a legitimate fear of succeeding. Do you know that? Do you know there's a legitimate fear that what you want actually can happen? And so for a girl who's always been big, she shops in a particular area of the shop, the plus size section. She's accustomed to culturally illiterate people looking at her a certain way. She is accustomed to struggling to feel comfortable in her body. She's accustomed to not being able to run with her kids. So now the thought of conceiving that she could actually be fit, healthy, look good in her clothes, wear that size 14, 12, whatever it is, and look good, running with her kids, rolling on the floor. The brain resists that because it's never known that. And so the resistance, you would think that if there's a chance I would succeed, I'm going to run at it and give it my all. It doesn't always work like that. For some, it does. But for many of us, there is a legitimate resistance with the fear of success. And so the brain now starts to imagine that life, like I can acquire a new physical identity. I can feel good. I can be confident in my body. I can look great. That comes with a lot. That means now I'm going to have to let go of my excuses. I'm going to have to let go of my excuses, and my excuses have always kept me comfortable. I'm going to have to build a new narrative. I'm going to have to eventually introduce myself to myself because the old is gone. That comes with a lot. That's a lot for the mind. And so that truth is the overarching reason why she tries and fails, or comes up with reasons as to why it just can't work. It has nothing to do with the generic stories. Those are artificial reasons. The truth is her inadequacy that she doesn't know how to confront. And so, even as I'm going through an audit of my last decade, I want to challenge you. Take a pen and paper, blank pen and paper, draw a line down the middle of that paper, and do an audit of your own. On one side, my story. On the other side, the truth. Liberate yourself. And here's the thing, you don't even have to do anything about it, because when some people hear that, when I give my clients some of these exercises, there's an immediate fear, because confronting the truth means you have to do something about it. Well, how about just confronting it and then just sitting with it? Sit in your truth for a little bit before you have to act. Acknowledge the reason why you have been so afraid or so angry or so reactive or so disconnected. It's not because you're lazy. It's because you had an inadequacy that's too scary to confront. Allow yourself to sit in that. Allow your inner person to feel safe coming through with the truth. That's already step one to solving the problem. To everyone that's watching this, I want to say something to you. And as I'm saying it to you, I'm saying it to myself. And let me also speak to the Christians. I'm born again. I love Jesus so much. And I have a habit of kemyaing the daylights out of the devil. Anything comes at me, I bind it in the name of Jesus. I bind it in the name of Jesus. I cancel it. I return to sender. I say it with such oomph, right? And many times it's true, but I want to tell you something. Your greatest enemy is not the devil. Yes, he is a bona fide enemy. The greatest enemy is not your partner or that person you're having domains with. Your greatest enemy is not your boss. Your greatest enemy is that subconscious you have allowed to run around freely. When you have allowed your subconscious mind to keep running a narrative that is detrimental to who you are, that keeps you bound and stuck, when your excuses become a blankie, that's your greatest enemy. And so I want to challenge you to get out of your own way. Finger is pointed at me, either get out of your own way as well. Same thing. And I think that's the attitude I'm taking into my 40s. Be very aware of the stories. And more so, be more aware of the fact that you can rewrite your story. Because if you can rewrite your story, then you can change the outcome. It's absolutely possible. And that's why I'm a huge fan of therapy. Meds for those who are clinically depressed and anxious and stuff like that. If you have a chemical imbalance as a result of a reality that has really put you down and you know you're not okay, you start there. You start by getting help. Pair therapy with coaching, that's what I do, because counseling helps to point out issues and helps you bring a level of awareness to where you're at. But coaching brings in behavioral help, where now you know what the problem is and you know how to fix it. But chances are you can't do it alone. So you need someone who will keep you accountable. You need someone who will help you pace yourself. You need someone who can help you hold space when things are thick. Yeah? Whatever it is you need, do it. But be very aware of the stories running in your mind that keep you stuck or keep you on a highway very different from the one where you know you're meant to be on. So those are my reflections. Those are my thoughts. Share with me your comments. Share with me what you're hearing. I would love to hear from you.